Ladies and gentlemen, it is my sincere honor to introduce you to Rick, who is behind the camera. I'm gonna look at it. So there you go, Rick. Hi, everybody. My name is Rob Burnham. If you don't know me, I was the past president of Ardmore Rotary Club, and a couple years ago I was asked to be assistant governor and wasn't sure what that meant, but I had a really hard time saying no. So I'm here, and I was honored to actually, during my first year, work with Mary Ann Cusack, and it was the vibrance. You really helped me, help others, Mary Ann, sincerely, and I really appreciate that. Thank you. You're very welcome. Thank you sincerely. I'm here to introduce your friend Doug. Doug Blazey, you know, and one of the honors that I get to do as assistant governor is go around and introduce our district governor. And it's, of course, for this club, Doug, you've been here. He's been a member of it since 1984. He's been multiple times president. He's been the secretary. He's done all these things. But some of the things that you may not know about Doug is things that I want to share with you. Because, now, ladies, if you can leave the room, please. No, I'm only kidding. Doug is sincerely, and he's one of the most genuine people that I know. And when I think about Rotary, I think about the help and kindness and goodness that's in Doug. And I just say that from my heart. But things that you may not know, because he is a humble man, is Doug Blazey is a graduate of Yale Law School and has specialized throughout his career in environmental law. An attorney, Doug helped to establish the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Resources and was chief counsel there for a number of years. Doug was appointed regional counsel for the United States Environmental Protection Agency in New York City, just so happens today is Earth Day, in 1984. As one of only 10 regional councils in the United States. Doug has the distinction of serving under Republican and Democratic administrations. Doug is now under private practice, as many of you know, and works with Elliott Greenfield and Stowski and Bluebell. He's done that since 1995. And we've had the honor at my club in Ardmore of having Doug come in with his students and go over the shale projects and stuff, and it was enlightening and really interesting when you see somebody who is just your friend, your buddy, and then see his students, how the respect that they have for him and lay on to him, and it's really something that's there. So he works as an adjunct professor at Temple's Fox School of Business Law faculty. So Doug and his wife Julianna, who is your next president, are members of this club, and their daughter Elizabeth, who graduated from Georgetown University School of Foreign Service with bachelor's and master's degrees, and now works in New York City. But their son Christopher, who I just learned is 20 years old, right, this year, is a student at Georgetown School of Foreign Service, and is a member of the Rotary Club of Central Delaware County. Besides being our friend and wonderful person, they've extended themselves to Rotary by being multiple Paul Harris Fellows. And please honor your friend by standing for our district governor and welcoming Doug Blazey.
Thank you, Rob. I've got some Earth Day stories. That's another. I was on garbage dumps a year after Earth Day and with CBS reporters. I'll tell you those stories sometime. But the reason first I brought up my jacket, this is my first official visit that I have not worn my theme jacket and my theme tie. And you may notice that Assistant Governor Rick is wearing it and Assistant Governor Rob are wearing their theme ties. And the reason I didn't is the first story I'll tell you today. Because I'm wearing another Rotary jacket. Let me just see where I can put this down. And I thought it was an interesting Rotary moment this morning. So I went into the city today on an investment prospect and I was wearing this very Rotary tie. Now, some of you may actually have this tie, but it is, I guess you would call it, Children of the World. And I had my Rotary pins on and whatnot, and there were two men that greeted me and commented to me on this tie. And they happened to be people of color. So the first was the conductor on the SEPTA train on the way in. And he came by and said, I see your tie, it's Children of the World. And I said, yes, it's a Rotary tie. Maybe I can make you a Rotarian, but he was collecting tickets. But this black man, you know, here a bunch of white guys and gals coming in on the mainline train, obviously some people of color, we're not completely homogeneous in that regard, but this little tie that suggested that somebody cared about children of all stripes, all colors, moved him. So I now get to the 30th Street Station, and I move into the Sierra Center where this meeting was, and I get my sticker, which is still in my pocket, you know, to go up to the elevators, and now a very neatly dressed, another young black man says, nice tie, man. So, you know, I never would have expected that, wearing that tie. But and I didn't have the opportunity with him to try to invite him into Rotary. I lost that opportunity. But it struck me that what wasn't obvious to me was reflected to them a caring and a sensitivity for people that are different. And what is Rotary about? But a worldwide community of friends and folks of all different shapes and sizes, colors and creeds, races, religions, you name it. And this tie in a way symbolizes that, and that caught their attention. That meant something to them. So I decided I'd leave it on so I could tell you that story tonight. And I've got a lot of things to say, and we can continue it. And this is a little different than my normal visit. Not only because you're my club, and I care very deeply about it, but because I think we've got some special challenges, and I want to kind of mention them to you, and my participation in those challenges, because I think as I have made the circuit of the Rotary clubs, and I've still got 2 left to go. You are visit 48, and I've been weathered out of Conshohocken, Plymouth White Marsh twice, and Bristol, where there was some confusion. So those are the 2 clubs left. They're scheduled. The first thing to say is I'm delighted I didn't visit every Rotary club in the first 2 months of my term simply to push the district conference. There's a lot of pressure on district governors who have fall conferences to visit every club right up front in order to promote their agenda for the year. And I think it almost inevitably makes it a chore or a task rather than a pleasure. And I've told clubs with absolute sincerity that the best part of the job, of being given the job of district governor, is visiting the clubs. There's no doubt about that in my mind. And what you learn by visiting the clubs, just like what we all can learn by going to a district conference and assemblies and zone institutes and training, is that we are very similar. We have common values. That 4-way test hangs in 34,000 Rotary clubs, hopefully, maybe in different languages, but hangs there. Is it fair, you know, service above self, and another banner hangs there, and the objects of Rotary hang there. So all around the world, Rotarians share these common core values, and we express them. So there's a friendship and a fellowship that's just kind of universal, and you sense that. And so you see clubs that are more successful at some things than others. Some are challenged, I think, like we're challenged, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But there are little examples of small clubs. My wife and I went, I think it was Chester Pike, There were 6 Rotarians, 6 or 7 Rotarians at that dinner meeting. It was middle of winter, so a lot of them were seniors and were in Florida. They had 12 guests that they paid for. And those 12 guests were 3 different high school students, because they had 3 high schools in their area, and they have a student of the month every month of the school year. So let's do our math. We got some good math men here. They invite the students' parents, 2 if they're, a double house, and they invite the guidance counselor. So for 3 high schools times 1 plus 2 plus 1 is 4. That's 12 guests every month they have to give a little wah-wah check, to let that student stand up and talk about what he or she is doing and their goals, to have the guidance counselor express something about that youngster. Those Rotarians were supporting out of their hearts. That's what was important to them. And every place you go, you see something different. We were at one in Langhorne. I told them that when I moved to Philadelphia with my dad, I was a 10th grader. I went away to college and law school in Connecticut, and I come back here, and the first thing I did was I taught in the Ford Foundation program in Trenton, New Jersey. So I would drive from Jenkintown out. See you, Rob. Okay. Nice. Thank you so much, Rob, for joining us.
Thank you.
And I know you've got babies to get and everything else, youngsters. All right, see you later. Thanks for coming, Karen.
No, baby.
I would drive by the Route 1 bypass, so I'd see the Reedman sign and a few other things, but I had no idea that there was a historic borough of Langhorne. It's a beautiful little community. And that club of, 20, 30, 40 people runs a pet fair every spring, for example. There are thousands of people that visit it. They have hundreds of tables leased out to every veterinarian, every pet supplier, every dog collar maker, every silent, invisible fence, you name it. They have little pet shows and, pet prizes and dancing contests. This is a weekend activity, and as you inquire into it, 1 or 2 guys are doing it. The club helps, but somebody put it together, and these pet things are on circuits. So you've kind of got to pick your weekend and you do it, and then year after year you get this traveling show that wants to come, and it's a whole community event. And they raise a few $1,000. Their goal is to have a community event that makes Rotary visible. And they do that, and they raise a few dollars. So I've got a lot of things I can tell you and we can share at another time, but I guess what I'm trying to say is you sense that we're not different in our spirit, in our commitment to Rotary, in our fellowship, than most other clubs. But we've got some challenges that aren't unlike what other clubs are also facing, but other clubs, there are many clubs that are more successful than we are in membership, fundraising, and projects. And so I think it's not that we're without Rotary spirit, but we've got to try to figure out what's missing in our equation and what we might do about it. And that's a couple of the things I wanted to talk to you tonight. So in the governor's sense, it's been a privilege and a pleasure to do all the things you've allowed me to do this year. Chad, I may not quit on June 30th. I'm going to keep something up, I really enjoy it. Now, there's a lot of time that goes into it, but that's fine with me. But it's really interesting to see what Rotarians are doing. So I was going to joke about and say a couple things with Rick. I wanted to tell you why I was filming this. I've really 2 reasons to ask Rick to come film it. Rick, is my hair all right? It's not out of vanity, but I'm dead serious about these 2 points. One, we've got missing members. We know that Mike Donnelly's overseas. We know that I'm not quite sure where Tay is, but Leslie was coming with her significant other. She really committed to, so they've got a youngster. I don't know what happened. I would like some of our missing members to be able to see this if they want, because we'll post this on YouTube, because I think we've got to do something together to address our challenges. And at least I want this available as a resource to our missing members for that purpose. And secondly, if it resonates, and I asked we have another guest who we didn't introduce. Margaret is here from the Frankfurt Northeast, right? No. Margaret Kelly. She was saying her club has got some similar challenges of an older membership, declining meeting size, etc. We heard that, what's the other one in Cheltenham Rockledge, I think, is struggling at the moment. So there are other clubs that are struggling with issues that we are. So my thought was, if what I have to say is useful, maybe that other clubs can see it and use it and hear it. And now let me talk about some of those thoughts. So the first thing is to say there's nothing wrong with us as Rotarians. This is not a criticism of anybody. I think we've done wonderful things over the years. There's no doubt about it. And there's been a lot of charity in terms of time, talent, and treasure that Rotarians here have given. We are Rotarians. So this is not a criticism, what I'm about to say. But I think it's, and I talk to people when I visit them about Rotary and Rotarians being citizen servants. We're not civil servants, we're not military officials, we're not public officials in public, but we're citizen servants. And we have done that. And there's no doubt we do it at the Senior Center. We try to do it at the Fall Festival. We do it at the Wayne Radnor Scholarship Fund with the Wayne Scholarship. There's a lot of things. We did it, Dale led this with the Vietnam warriors and trying to send them some home goods and package. Iraq. It was Iraq at the time, sorry. So there's plenty of things this club has done and continues to do that we have every reason to be proud of. But as I thought about what kind of challenges us and why I've been resistant. So this is a commentary, it's in significant part on some of my attitudes, which I think were a little misplaced in some ways. And John Douglas is not here. He would have been here, but it's his daughter's choir concert. She's in the choir, so John's missing. A couple of our key folks are missing. And Patrick was helping lead this. We tried this Rotary year, you may know, to vary our meeting time and to have some luncheon meetings. And I think I attended each of them. But when it came up to vote about it, it wasn't clear to me that I at least wanted to change to a luncheon meeting. And at the time, I didn't think much about that. I like dinner. I like not being quite so rushed at the end of the day. That to me is appealing. So when I work, I mean, maybe at some point when I'm fully retired, it's easy to come back here because I'll be 2 blocks away and can walk here at noon or some other time. But I work, a half hour away, so to come back and forth at lunch was disruptive. So I was, I think, frankly, thinking more about me than thinking about the club when it came to lunch. So I came, but it wasn't the time that really suited me. So I didn't particularly vote to do a luncheon schedule. The other thing that struck me, excuse me a second. I just lost my train of thought, and then you get it. Oh my goodness. It was also about lunch. Just stop that a second, Rick. Let me give me a second here. The second thing that really struck me about the core members was that if we didn't come, there'd be even one less. So it was hard for me to envision change when I was afraid that the core that was supporting us wouldn't change with us. So I was thinking if lunch wasn't good for me and I didn't show up, what would happen to the club? And I was thinking, you know, Patrick at the time thought he was working from home, he could. But I wasn't sure. John had to come in and break up his day. I was just, Dale has an active business, has to come in from it. So it made me wonder. Joe is an active practice. I mean, he goes to Shredwich, I guess, from time to time at lunch, but it made me, I think, wonder whether we could change or whether we'd lose the core that we so valued. So it wasn't my time, but I also was just worried that it would be destructive. So, you know, as I thought about this, I realized in a way that I think my perspective was off a little. Now, I'm going to point around the room in terms of who we are. We're all good Rotarians, but where are we coming from? Don, who we don't see that often, is Wilmington-based or nearby. Is state of Delaware resident, and came up because I think early on, Mary Ann and Dale, you knew some of us and have joined us, and we're always glad for that. But this is not a convenient club for Don. Is it really convenient for Dale? Kind of Newtown Square on the way to Westchester with your office in now Paoli. This is coming in, right? Right? When you look at John, and when we started, remember, when a lot of these guys started, and unfortunately some of them are no longer with us, like Al, their businesses were here in town. John was at Chilton, right? Right down the Radnor Corporate Center. Where's John now? John's essentially in Downingtown. So he's got plenty of clubs near him in Downingtown that are a lot more convenient, whether they be breakfast, lunch, or dinner, than the Wayne Rotary. But he's faithful to the Wayne Rotary and comes back in. Now Joe practices here, Patrick lives here, I live here, Julianna's here, a few of us, Mary Lee's Devon, so she's coming in remotely to join us. We're not, John is Gladwin. So we're not the club we used to be 30 and 40 years ago, where the core was Wayne and Wayne businesses. Now Jim was part of that. I think your office, Jim, at the time was right here in town. You're now over at Springton Retired, right? Springton. Ooh. He loves it, right? Isn't that?
Good, brother.
Jim, that's right. And we're really glad Jim has come back. But I say this to you because, again, I was trying to think, what is it that's our dynamic, that's our challenge? So I was thinking first of what my attitudes were that maybe were keeping me from being creative and accepting change. Theodora's local, so we've got some locals. But when we were 60 or a club of 60 or 70, we were probably, and Ernest was here, and you know, think of George Lair and Larry Aldeberger. They were local florists, local businessmen. We were a club of Wayne, and we're not now. A few of us are, but I don't really work here. I live here. Mary Ann was, working here when she was with us, but I would call you more a resident than a Wayne practitioner. It wasn't as if you had a nursing office or a business location in town at the time. So I think as the Wayne Business Association fired up and the Chamber of Commerce, Mainline Chamber of Commerce fires up, we start to dissipate that local core. And I wonder if that's something we don't have to think about how we recover in some way. So when Patrick and John and Tay were trying this other formats and noon meetings and whatnot. Maybe we need to do a little more of that. There's some clubs that do a couple luncheons and a couple dinners. They switch, they do different things. They may go to a different venue. But I somehow think that we have to take ourselves a little bit out of the picture and think about what it will take to make the Wayne Rotary a crucial part of the Wayne community. Even if we, as we pass away, I don't mean pass away in the terms of heavens, even if we don't stay in this club forever and go to something more convenient, can we create a really vibrant Wayne Rotary Club? And that's partly why I asked the spouses and all the members to bring their spouses and significant others. Because I think we need to vision a different future for this club. We can't go on meeting with 5 or 6 people. We have a good time, those 5 or 6. We are good friends, and we will stay good friends, regardless of what Rotary Club we're a member of or what happens to our Rotary Club. We've been friends, and we will stay friends. But I think our challenge is really to how to make this a vibrant club in this community. And I think that means throwing out some of the prejudices I've got, not in the racial or religious sense, but the biases of how we fit into it. I think we have to vision a club that fits this community and will attract members. And maybe if we attract some new members, it'll make it even more vibrant for us. That's fine. But does that mean a different venue? Does that mean lunch? Does that mean mixing things up? Does that mean more modest service? Whatever it means, we need to think about together. And I guess that's kind of the last point I want to make. I think sometimes, think about a few of the things that were traditional for this club years ago that have disappeared. And I think they disappeared and we didn't really take significant count of them. John or Dale would remember. John, think of what happened over the holidays every year, 30 and 20 odd years ago.
Basketball tournament.
Right.
Big deal.
So this, we had, I think, a member of the Radnor Township, he was either an athletic director or one of the coaches, helped organize inter-community basketball over the Christmas holidays when people were a little more homebody oriented and folks were looking for things for the youngsters to do. We sponsored a basketball tournament. Apparently it was a pretty good fundraiser. It supported the Wayne Scholarship for decades, and to this day is the source of our funds for the Wayne Scholarship. We lost that Rotarian, we lost that event, and we never really replaced it. John tried. We tried at the roller rink was the next one.
Roller rink, we had members, the 2 people who managed it were members here. And they did the first one, and it was very successful because they really knew how to promote it. And then the developer who owned that corner threw them out and decided to run the rink himself. So we had to run it. Never made a lot of money, but at least we made a little bit and had a good time, had a good project. It wasn't a big money maker. And then they closed the rink.
And then they tore it down. So we lost the next one. And we never found something really to replace it. Dale tried with the ad book. We tried different things. So it's not, again, this is not a criticism. Joe tried, broke his wife's neck working on it with him, right? The speaker series. They were terrific events.
Really good.
And we made a few bucks, but we didn't make the kinds of thousands of dollars that would really support us big time. So we tried, but I think some of it was a little too, and this is not individualistic in the sense of egotistic. I think we let individuals do certain things and we never were fully a unit working on things together. Sometimes, at one point on the ad book, we actually trumped the streets together a couple Saturdays, and we did better. And then when we kind of let the ad book be, well, you just do what you can and you sell it, Mary Ann would go out, different people would get a few ads, but we were never as coordinated as a group. So I really think if we're going to change our club and make it really useful to the community and vibrant again, we've got to be together on whatever our approach is. And that can be meeting times, it can be activities, it can be fundraisers, whatever. And we've been thinking about fundraisers. We've got food events. I've stopped at the senior center. I'm trying to get them to talk about bingo. We could look at we could talk about a golf tournament, which we've talked about. We could maybe talk about a different kind of ad book. We need to do some visioning, work together on a plan, and then execute it together. And I think we can really return this club to some vibrancy. We still are friends. We're all friends. But we want to do more, I think, all of us, than we've been able to do as we've shrunk. So we need to kind of up the game. And that kind of leads just to the last thought. Dave is one of our gamesmen uppers in the district. He works real hard at helping people create vision and think about what we've got, what are our resources, what maybe is missing or where we want to be. And how do we put those two together? How do we get from where we are to where we want to be and what it'll take? And he'd help us, vision that or facilitate that if we asked him back. And I think you were talking about maybe having an open time in May to start that, Juliana?
May 20th, which is a Wednesday. So we would like to invite everyone to come back for the 20th of May for Dave Herriam to be able to talk with us concerning what Doug.
And I think it may take more than just an hour or, our typical 30 minutes. We may need to take a Saturday morning or a Sunday afternoon or something at some point to sit down together to really pull this together. And I would hope we would do it because, let me end on this because we're long. I really see Rotary as a tremendous force for good in the world. That's a little bit why this tie. So, it wasn't me thinking that this was a message I was sending. It was just another Rotary tie that I was wearing. But it meant something to those two black men that this was an inclusive symbol. This was children of the world, and that somehow this tie said to them, this guy cares for all of us. And that meant enough to them for them to step out of their normal role and say something to me. And that's what Rotarians are doing every place, whether it be polio eradication, scholarship and education, all of our areas of focus. I've worked very hard this year on trying to make Gundager a more prominent part of our district, and I will continue to do that. We've got some ideas about even foundations in the 1023 Easy form that I think we could do and take advantage of. So there's a lot of things Rotarians are doing. And we're Rotarians, so we can do it. We just have to do it together. And I think if we stay in it together, we can really do it. We're going to get you back. We'd love you back.
Every 6 months.
Yeah, all right. So I've learned a lot this year. There are other I like to say, I'll just finish. I tell every club, Rotarians have time, talent, and treasure. We have that in different measure. So at different times in our lives, we can share more time or less time, more treasure, less treasure. We honored him. He put some treasure on this as well as his time. I think we've all got talent. We've all got talent. And the last things then that we have to do are serve, share, and shine. We serve, that's what Rotary's about, service above self. I think there's a lot of value in sharing. And we, as a club, have done that. I mean, we've had 3 district governors, and I think there's one before Dick Knopf, way back in, I think we've maybe had 4. I'm not sure the name right now. We've been active in district affairs. We've been a prominent club. We do projects, so we share. Certainly we serve. Sharing means going to the district conferences, going to district assemblies, sharing what we know, and learning from others what we don't know and want to do better. So we need to participate in training and give what we've got and get where we need it. And lastly, we need to shine. And I'll stop on this one. It's very interesting. I've learned that a lot of people think shining is an offensive word because it means bragging. And they're members of our community. I think particularly folks with a deep spiritual orientation believe anything that's boastful or bragging has an immoral component, that that's not what their Creator called upon them to do. They're called upon to serve, but not to brag. Pat me on the back, please. Look what I'm doing. Shining is not bragging. Shining is simply letting others know what Rotary is about and inviting them into our fellowship. We enjoy that fellowship, but through that fellowship we do service. I grew up not knowing what Rotary was, and I think I heard somebody else, maybe it was Rick or somebody said at our table that they too the same way. Rotary's not known to a lot of people. Service clubs are not known to a lot of people. So we need to let folks know what service is about and what a community club like Rotary can mean and do for both them and their community. So shining is inviting others to be with us, and I think we can really do that. So I'm anxious to come back and be a Wayne Rotarian, 100% as best I can. I think seeing what others have been doing gives me a little perspective to be able to share with you, where there are successes, where there are challenges, what people have done to overcome them. But I'm absolutely convinced we have to do this together. And that means we've got to find ways to be able to meet collectively long enough to plan, get some commitments down, and then execute on them. And if 2 years from now this is a 40-person club and John wants to go to the Coatesville Club or the Thorndale Downingtown Club or the new Coatesville Downtown, God bless him. Doesn't mean he won't come back for a special event, but we'll have left a legacy here that we can all be proud of. So I don't want any of you to leave our fellowship until we've really got it. And that's partly why I want this guy back and some other back. Even if not, Jim was a leader in recognizing community service, which was no small task to help, solicit nominations from all the police, the fire, the schools, who we could recognize for public service awards years ago. Took a lot of time.
Yeah, you did a phenomenal job.
Yeah.
How many of those did you do, Jim? 3, 4?
Yep.
It worked out beautiful. They were great.
But it's not that we're trying to put them back to work necessarily, but Jim and others who worked and lived in this community have insight as to what it may take to invite members back in. There's no reason members of the Wayne Business Association couldn't come to us at lunch for service, just like they have their business association for community and economic development of their own. They can be here for service. So we just have to get together on it. It is my pleasure to be a part of this club. I look forward to the coming years with you, and I look forward for us to do all this together. So thank you.